Perhaps the most underrated position group on the New England Patriots roster is the running backs. Not only because Ramondre Stevenson was essentially the entire offense last year, but also because the group has solid depth and has a diverse set of talents, with Ramondre being more of a premier back, Kevin Harris being that between the tackles downhill option, Ty Montgomery being a great receiving back, and Pierre Strong Jr. being what I like to call a slasher running back. Some people like to discount the importance of having a strong running back room and how critical it is to have a solid running game to be a consistent offense. For some, having a strong running game is wasteful because you need to be throwing the ball to have big plays and get points up on the board. Well, having a slasher running back like Pierre Strong can help you get those points on the board with his big playability in single back sets. Despite only getting a limited amount of carries and targets last year, Pierre Strong quickly became one of my favorite Patriots players and is positioned to have a breakout season after the team released James Robinson. I intend to provide some background on Pierre Strong and why I see him as a slasher running back. In addition, I will discuss why I think Strong will have a breakout season and what it will take for him to have that opportunity. Finally, I discuss why I think Patriot fans should be rooting for him to have a bigger role this year. Pierre Strong was one of the Patriots' fourth-round picks in the 2022 NFL Draft due to his noteworthy college career with 1,116 yards rushing and 11 touchdowns as a redshirt freshman. He followed that up with 1,018 yards in his sophomore year, then 1,489 yards and 16 Ds in his final season. Yeah, 1,000 yards for 3 seasons at South Dakota State University. What is more, Strong was an effective gadget player, throwing 8 passes in his college career, completing them all, with 198 yards and 5 touchdowns. Watching his tape will show you how he achieved this. He is a blazing fast back with big play potential and an ideal build for the position. He is 5'11", 207 pounds, his hands are 9 1/4, his arms are 31 7/8, and his wings was 76 1/4. Now, Pierre put on a show at the Combine, with his 40-yard being 4.37, 95th percentile for running backs, 20-yard split, 2.55, his 10-yard split, 1.51, 92nd percentile. His vert, 36 inches, his broad was 10.4, he benched 16 reps. This gave us a running back RES of 9.35. This speed and agility, along with his excellent vision, gives him that big playability. Strong is very patient and postpones his moves to allow lanes to develop and follows his blockers with resolve. Pierre has the natural instinct and recognizes where defenders are planning attack before their initial move. It is obvious that he has an elevated football IQ. Strong is incredibly smooth and has elite running form that allows him to maintain balance despite accelerating at breakneck speeds. He has one-cut ability powering off the tackle, as well as perimeter back abilities outside the tackles. Moreover, he shows that he has reliable hands as an outlet receiver. This makes him an absolutely perfect slasher running back. Now, you must be asking, what is a slasher running back? Well, for me, a slasher is really the opposite of a workhorse or a bell cow premier back that the offense is relying upon. Stevenson is more of that premier back and is very successful when the personnel and the blocking are working. These are the guys that set the tone for the game and are dangerous regardless of the down or field position. Moreover, they can take a beating. Now, a slasher is typically a complementary back that is intended to provide a change in pace. Their success is often independent of personnel and blocking schemes. They can be a check-down tailback that can move side to side and has soft hands as effective receivers. As rushers, they have the ability to make that quick cut and find daylight where none seems visible. But when they break, see ya. They can be used as downhill runners, but they must be managed and their touch is limited since they lack the size to take the beating of a true bell cow back. Barkley and McCaffrey are great slashers because they are explosive and they have that big playability, but lack that bruiser capacity that you see in a Chubb, Henry, or Stevenson. All those guys are great running backs, but there's a big difference between Barkley and McCaffrey type backs and the Chubb, Henry, Stevenson type backs. Just like how we try to apply various types of receivers and tight ends, they have different styles, attributes, and uses. Now, I don't want to see Pierre Strong getting the ball 25, 30 times a game. I want him to be in there to draw attention, force a conflict in defensive personnel, and eventually break for a big game. He might have several short games or even possible losses, but eventually, he will get a home run in there. My best comp for Pierre Strong is Chris Johnson, who was streaky, with some weeks with blowout games, and then average production the next. Yeah, I know this doesn't sound great for Pierre Strong in some ways, but Chris Johnson was being used as a premier back in the wrong system. Strong will be a complementary back in New England, where they can set him up for a series to ultimately find an opportunity for him to make that big play. Why do I think this season will be his breakout season? Well, there are 3 reasons for this. 1, James Robinson is gone, so we should see Strong get a significant bump in carries and receptions this year. 2nd, Pierre Strong is probably the best complement to Stevenson, so Strong could benefit from catching the defense off guard with the work being put in by Stevenson. Think of it as a closer in baseball who's coming in to finish off the game. Typically a different style, speed, pitches, and a pace than the starter. 1 or 2 innings of a closer is not enough for the batters to adjust to the differences, and the closer typically has no problem putting the game to bed. Strong can benefit from a similar concept. 3rd, slashers don't need a great offensive line to be effective, and the Patriots' offensive line appears to be shaky right now. Strong should be able to outrun or outmaneuver D linemen and most linebackers, thus diminishing the need for an elite offensive line. Whereas bigger backs will probably need a solid offensive line and possibly decent tight ends or a fullback to help them out in the box. But once they get past that first 2 lines of defense, the D-backs are going to be in trouble with a big bruiser. A slasher, although not as big as a bruiser, will still be a problem for most D-backs to bring down, especially at full speed. So, Strong might not be as affected by the poor line play as other backs might be. What's it going to take for the breakout season? Well, first thing that Pierre needs to do is separate himself from Harrison Montgomery and be the undeniable second back here. I like Harrison Montgomery, don't get me wrong at all. I think they are very valuable members of this team, but Strong is going to need the snaps to get the production. The 2 things I think Strong will need to work on is his pass blocking and receiving. If he can improve in those areas, not only would he be the secondary back, but also a potential 3rd down back. Imagine the damage Strong would do on a wheel route or an angle route. Better yet, imagine him being flexed out to the slot or a wing. If he can show he can be playing a bigger role, O'Brien will find a way to maximize his abilities and get those numbers up. Why should the Patriots fan care about Pierre Strong's development this season? First, I'm going to discuss why the running back position is starting to rotate back to being a position of value, primarily because of versatility, reliability, and accountability. Indeed, running the ball is not as important as it used to be in the NFL since the rules have changed to benefit receivers and quarterbacks. There's a big advantage to passing the ball these days. Now that we've got that out of the way, we could talk about why running backs are coming back to a position of value. Derrick Henry is probably the only top running back that is almost entirely a ball carrier in this league. Most of your top guys are closer to 50-50 running to receiving. Running backs are basically receivers now, aligned closest to the quarterback. That's basically it. And just like slot receivers, a receiving back has some space to establish some speed before a D-back can engage them, which can be a problem if the running back is too fast for a linebacker and too big for a D-back to take on at near full speed. Think I'm wrong? Christian McCaffrey was 4th in receiving yards last year for the 49ers, despite only playing 11 games for them. And yeah, Fourth isn't bad with Ayuk, Kittle, and Deebo Samuel ahead of you. In addition, he was around 60-40 for rushing to receiving yards. Yeah, I know McCaffrey's a different beast, but Stevenson's arguably a better example. He led the Patriots in receptions last year. McKinnon was fourth on the Chiefs in terms of receiving yards and second in receiving touchdowns. Mixon was fourth on the Bengals despite having Chase, Higgins, Boyd ahead of him. Austin Eckler, a great slasher, was fourth in receiving on the Chargers last year. You get what I'm saying? If your running back is top 4 in receiving, he's either outproducing at least one of your receivers or a tight end. Then add in the rushing and passing protection. How is a running back not valuable? Besides the quarterback, he's the most vital component of the offense because he is involved in every play with a significant responsibility. I deal with data all day long, and I cannot stand when someone points to stats as the be-all end-all in a situation where a single data point fits their bias to prove a specific point. Meanwhile, the data point is a summation of multiple points and circumstances. What am I saying? Running the ball is not as valuable as it used to be, unless you factor in some of the qualitative data that allows you to see how you got that data point that was created by a dynamic model. Once you factor in everything else the running back does, they are incredibly undervalued. Especially when you start to factor in red zone yardage. You can't run every play in the book in the end zone. Not enough space. Well, that running back's going to come in real handy there. What is my point? Don't discount the importance of the running backs in the Patriots offense and how having such a diverse stable of talent is critical to this offense in terms of rushing, receiving, and pass protection. Now, bring it back to specifically Pierre Strong. He has the ability to be that big playback. Plus, he can help Ramondre. He can be a relief valve for Mac on passing downs and will be a constant threat to the defense. If you ask me, those were some of the major issues coming out of last season, especially Ramondre being burnt out in the last third of the season. It would also be nice if Strong could help address those issues rather than just having to rely on bringing in outside talent. And if he develops into a legitimate pass-catching third down back, which could really allow Ty Montgomery to play a 50-50 role between running back and receiver. This would unlock a lot of different options in terms of packages, play calling, as well as roster options, including depth. Another thing to consider is that Ramondre is going to be a free agent at the end of this year. Having an upgraded Pierre Strong on the team would help alleviate the stress of losing Ramondre to free agency. Now you have to listen to me. I am not saying that we shouldn't re-sign Ramondre or that Strong could replace Ramondre. I am just saying having a competent back like Strong won't force us to overdraft a running back in next year's draft. So, yeah, I think it's critical Strong has a breakout season this year. Of course, everyone on the roster needs to have a big season this year. But if Pierre Strong can really play that secondary back with his slasher style, man, we are looking at a massive breakout season for him, and possibly one of the primary reasons the Patriots might make it to the playoffs this year. Keep a close eye on him at camp. So, what do you think about Pierre Strong? Is he one of your favorite Patriots? Will he have a breakout season? What's his stat line going to look like? Is he the second back? Can he take up the third down back role? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like my content, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.